Hello friends. Welcome to ZUBE Stories, where every story hides a little secret just waiting for you. Are you ready for a ride? Settle in, watch gracefully, and let the magic unfold. Don't forget to subscribe and share, because some stories are too good to keep to yourself. The sun was just crawling over the rooftops of Okoro village, but the market square was already busy. Women haggling, traders shouting prices, the air thick with the smell of fresh fish, pepper, and gossip. Have you heard? Nneka has left her third husband. Mama Uju, the pepper seller, clicked her tongue so loud it echoed past the tomato stands. Left ku. She didn't just leave she poured hot egusi soup on his head before packing out. I heard she told him, if you want salt, go and lick River Niger. Laughter exploded. Even the women pretending to mind their wares leaned in closer. Nneka wasn't just a name, she was a warning, a legend. From the corner of the market, a short woman with tribal marks nodded sagely, that Nneka, she's fire. She fears no man, she fears no woman. Even thunder avoids a trouble. And it was true. Nneka, daughter of late Papa Okiri, the village blacksmith, was known far and wide. Beautiful. Yes. Skin like smooth cocoa, eyes sharp like razor. But it wasn't her beauty that made the village fear her. It was her mouth, sharp, unforgiving, always ready. Any man that thinks he can turn me into a rag, I will shove him into the gutter, she once shouted during a wedding. That was Nneka, bold enough to spoil another woman's big day just to pass a message. But deep inside her chest, under all the thunder, lived a secret, a small, soft heart that just wanted peace. By the time Nneka clocked 30, she had 3 marriage scars to show for it. Not one of them lasted past 2 planting seasons. Her first husband, Echezona, was a tall palm tree of a man, quiet, respectful. The village thought, finally, someone who can handle Nneka. It ended in blood. He said I put too much salt in his soup, Nneka once told Mama Chinu. Next thing, he raised his voice. I raised my hand, with a pestle. Marriage ended that day. The second husband, Chibuzo, was rich, owned 2 provision stores and a motorcycle. Nneka thought money would buy peace. Instead, it bought war. His mother came visiting and told me to kneel before serving her food, Nneka recalled, eyes blazing. Me? Kneel? For who? I told her if she's looking for a slave, she should go back to the market and hire one. That marriage scattered like dry leaves in Harmattan. The third? That one didn't even make it to the child-naming ceremony. Obadike, fine man, sweet tongue, but his hands were faster than his words. The first slap he gave Nneka was his last. I told him, touch me again, and they will carry your corpse from this compound. He never touched her again, because he never stayed. He ran. One hot afternoon, as Nneka sat plaiting her hair under the mango tree, the village oracle, Dibia Izemuo, walked past. He stopped, stared at her long and hard, then shook his head. Nneka, your fire will either kill you or save you. But a man is coming. He will be your match. He carries chains around his soul, heavy ones. Nneka laughed. Let him come, Dibia. If he thinks he has chains, I have my fire. The old man sighed. Not all chains are made of iron, Nneka. Some are made of blood, and mothers. What the village didn't know, what Nneka herself barely admitted, was that under her tough skin, she longed for one thing, peace. Not just any peace. The kind of peace that tasted like morning pap, smelled like new yam, felt like soft hands after a hard day. She wanted a man, yes. But not just any man. A man who saw her, not just the fire, but the soft, scared woman underneath. A man who would stand beside her, not over her. I don't tire, she once whispered to her reflection. God, if you're listening, send me someone who loves me. Someone whose mother is dead or doesn't have mouth. She laughed at the last part, but the tears that fell weren't from laughter. One thing was certain, Nneka had rules now. Hard ones. No mother-in-law drama. Any man still attached to his mother like breast milk should forget it. No raised voices. No hands raised except in praise or love. Any man that crosses these lines should go his way. While Nneka was setting her rules, far away, The gods were whispering. Fate was tired of Nneka's running, tired of her heartbreak. Destiny was writing a new chapter. And at the center of that chapter was Obinna, a man chained, not by poverty, but by Mama Fema, a woman whose love was so toxic it had killed 2 marriages already. Their paths would soon cross. But for now, Nneka sat under the mango tree, staring into the sky, dreaming of a love that didn't hurt. She didn't know that love was coming. But it wouldn't come easy. It would come in chains, with fire, with blood, and on a night bus that would change her life forever. 2 days after the latest market gossip, the elders called a village meeting, one of those rare gatherings where everyone pretended it wasn't about Nneka, but everyone knew it was. Old Pan Wafer, clearing his throat like an ancient engine, started slow. Yumu Okoro is a land of respect. Our daughters are raised to honor their homes, their husbands, and their in-laws. Eyes darted toward Nneka, sitting on a wooden bench, wrapper tied tight, face hard like mortar. But now, marriages break like calabash. Husbands run. Mothers-in-law cry. Who is the cause? Pan Wafer's voice rose. Some women no longer kneel. Some women talk like men. This is not our way. Murmurs filled the air. Nneka stood slowly, adjusting her wrapper. Elders, with all due respect, why must it be the woman's fault? Why is it that when marriage breaks, you ask what the woman did? Have you ever asked what the man did, or what his mother did? Gasps. Someone's walking stick dropped. When a mother-in-law becomes a god in her son's house, who suffers? The wife. And when the wife stands up for herself, she becomes the devil. Nneka's voice cracked like thunder. I did not kill anybody. I only refused to die slowly. Silence. Pan Wafer cleared his throat. Nneka, you are a woman. Lower your voice. She laughed, short, sharp, dangerous. I was born with this voice, elder. The gods did not make me soft. If that offends you, cover your ears. The meeting ended there. The elders left shaking their heads, but none dared speak again. Nneka's words hung in the air like harmattan dust. That night, as the moon lit her compound, Nneka sat by the fire, staring into the flames, remembering Obadike, the last man who tried to tame her. It started sweet. Obadike was a charmer, the kind that smiled with his eyes and made a woman forget her sorrows. Nneka, you're not like other women. You're fire, and I want to be the air that feeds you, he'd said, kissing her knuckles. She melted. For once, she dreamed of babies, of warm beds, of evening laughter. But it didn't last. The first sign was small, a slap, after a harmless joke. What did you say? So you now talk back at me. Nneka remembered standing there, stunned, the slap ringing in her ear. He begged, cried, swore it was the devil. She forgave. Then it happened again, and again, until one night, she stood over him, eyes red, heart cold. If you raise that hand one more time, I swear by my father's grave, I will bury you with it. Obadike left before dawn. Coward. Weak. Later that night, Nneka knelt on her raffia mat, staring at the full moon. For the first time in years, she prayed, not loud, not proud, just honest. My God, I'm tired. I have fought men, fought their mothers, fought this village. If love is not meant for me, tell me. But if there's still a man out there who can love me and fight for me, send him. I'm tired of being the storm. I want to be someone's rain. Tears fell. Somewhere in the distance, a night owl cried. A bad omen, or a sign. Far away, in another town, Obinna sat in his mansion, staring at his phone. His mother's voice rang in his head like a curse. No woman will enter this house except the one I approve. They all want your money. They want to bury me and take everything. Obinna sighed. 2 marriages gone. Peace, a distant dream. What Obinna didn't know, what neither he nor Nneka knew, was that the gods were tired of their stubbornness. Destiny was already writing their meeting. 2 storms, 2 fires, about to collide. But first, there was a market day. A meeting. A spark. The next morning, Nneka was at the market, pricing fish. She was haggling fiercely when she heard it. They say one big man is coming from town. A rich trader. Obinna. He's looking for palm oil suppliers. Nneka's ears perked. Obinna? That one? Mema Ifema's son? Ah, that woman is a witch. No wife survives her. Nneka smiled small. Let me see this Obinna. Let me see if he has mouth, or if it's just his mother's shadow he lives in. And just like that, the wheels of fate turned. By evening, a black SUV rolled into the village square. Dust flew. Children chased after it. Women peeped from their stalls. Out stepped Obinna, tall, dark, wearing a clean white senator. Fine boy. But his eyes, empty, tired. Nneka watched from a corner, her heart pounding for reasons she couldn't name. He looked up. Their eyes met. Obinna blinked first. Nneka smiled. This one carries chains. But let's see if he can carry me. The gods smiled. The game had begun. The sun was beginning to retreat when Obinna stepped out of his car, dust clinging to his polished shoes. He scanned the market, searching for the palm oil merchant he was told about. His eyes were cold, distant, eyes of a man who had seen too much and smiled too little. Nneka watched from behind a tomato stall, arms folded. So this is the great Obinna, she muttered, smirking. She expected more. Maybe a loudmouth, maybe a mama's boy with his mother clinging to his shadow. But this was a man who carried sadness like a cloak. Obinna caught her staring. You are staring at me like you want to price me instead of the tomatoes, he called out suddenly, a smile flickering, surprising even him. The market went silent. Nneka blinked once, twice, then burst out laughing, rich, deep, the kind that shook her shoulders. If I price you, can you pay your bride price yourself? Nneka shot back. Laughter rippled. Even Obinna grinned, truly grinned, and for the first time in months, his shoulders relaxed. I heard you are looking for palm oil. My name is Nneka. If you're ready, I have the best red oil in this market. Obinna nodded. Show me, Nneka. Let me see if your oil is as good as your mouth. More laughter. Nneka led him through the market, hips swaying, not to seduce, but because that was simply how she walked, like she owned the ground. They stopped by Nneka's stall, where gallons of red oil gleamed in the sun. You know, people talk about you, Nneka, Obinna said, casually leaning against a pillar. Let them talk, she shrugged. They are the ones with free time. They say you've buried 3 marriages, that your mouth is sharper than a razor. Nneka laughed, pouring oil into a bottle for him to sample. Good. That means they are paying attention. But what they don't say is that every time, it was either a man or his mother who drew the first blood. Obinna's eyes darkened at the mention of mother. So, you aren't scared of mother-in-law? Nneka met his gaze, strong. Wifey who can't kill me. If she brings fire, I bring hurricane. For a moment, Obinna stared. Then he threw his head back and laughed, surprising even himself. It felt good. Too good. Ifema, Mama, would hate you, he muttered under his breath. Good, Nneka grinned. Then maybe I'm exactly what you need. That night, Obinna sat in his guest house, staring at the ceiling, haunted by Nneka's words. He saw his mother's face, tight-lipped, Bible always in hand, eyes sharp like broken glass. I gave birth to you with my blood, Obinna. No strange woman will take you from me. He remembered Adanma, his first wife, soft, patient, the perfect wife. Mama Ifema destroyed her with words until the girl ran back to her father's house. Then Ngozi, beautiful, educated. After she miscarried, Mama Ifema called her a barren tree every day until Ngozi packed and left, tears blinding her eyes. Now here was Nneka, fearless, mouth sharp, eyes even sharper. Could he handle another war? Could he handle his mother? And this woman of fire? Back in her compound, Nneka's friend Amarachi sat beside her, chewing sugarcane. That man you're smiling at, he comes with baggage. Heavy one. His mother is not ordinary. They say she prays blood. They say she once poured anointing oil on her last daughter-in-law's clothes and said, Holy Ghost fire, consume her womb. Nneka shrugged. Then she's about to meet fire she cannot quench. Amarachi dropped the cane. Nneka, Abig, think twice. Love is sweet, but death is bitter. Nneka's eyes were far away. What if this is the one? What if all these battles were training for this final war? Amarachi shook her head. Or what if this war buries you, Nneka? The next market day, Obinna returned. He wasn't sure why. Business? Maybe. Or maybe something else. Back so soon? Nneka teased. I came for oil, and maybe conversation. They Saturday. They talked. They laughed. Obinna confessed. 2 wives gone. Mama, she's my curse. I've tried, Nneka. I've tried to please her, to love, to balance it. But each time, she pulls me back into her shadow. Nneka was silent. Then softly, what if you don't need to balance it? What if you choose your own peace, Obinna? He stared. No one had ever said that to him before. Choose peace? Against my own mother. Yes, Nneka's voice was steel. Because one day, you'll wake up, and there'll be no love left in you, only her bitterness living in your bones. By sunset, Obinna stood. Give me your number, Nneka. She smirked. I don't give numbers. But if you're serious, you know where to find me. What if I'm not strong enough for you? Nneka laughed, deep and rich. Then don't come back. But if you do, come ready for war. That night, Obinna dreamt of Nneka. Not in a lustful way, but as a mirror. He saw himself, older, bitter, alone, and then he saw Nneka, laughing, free. Maybe, just maybe, this is the woman who burns the chains, he whispered into the night. Sleep didn't come easy for Obinna that night. He tossed and turned, Mama Efima's voice clawing at his mind like a restless spirit. They will come for you, Obinna. Jezebels. Witches. They will drain you dry and bury me alive. He sat up in the dark, staring at nothing. For the first time in years, the idea crossed his mind. What if it's not them? What if it's her? The next morning, he found himself driving back to Nneka's compound. No business, no oil deal, just a man looking for someone who made him feel less like a prisoner. As fate would have it, the same morning, Nneka was summoned by Mama Agba, the oldest widow in the village, feared, respected. Nneka, sit. Nneka obeyed, the weight of the moment sinking in. I've seen your path, child. That man, Obinna, he is not your mate. Not because of money, not because of pride, but because of the curse that follows him. His mother, that woman's heart is blacker than the bottom of a burnt pot. Nneka swallowed hard. I know, Mama. But if I run from this one too, what will be left of me? Mama Agba sighed, her frail hands trembling as she held Nneka's. Then listen to me. If you walk this road, you walk it to the end. No turning back. No complaints. You either break the curse, or you become part of it. Nneka nodded slowly. I understand. Just as Nneka rose, Obinna appeared, like the gods had orchestrated it. You came back, Nneka smirked, hiding the slight shake in her hands. I couldn't stay away, he admitted. Nneka, I don't know if this is sense or madness, but I want to see where this goes. She stared at him, long and hard. You're not afraid. Terrified, he chuckled bitterly. But I've lived in fear long enough. My mother, she owns my peace. Maybe it's time someone fought her, and maybe it's not me. Nneka's eyes narrowed. So you want me to fight your battle? No, he shook his head. I want you to stand with me while I fight it. For the first time, Nneka's lips curled into a real, warm smile. They sat together under the mango tree, no words, just silence wrapping around them like a protective charm. Finally, Nneka spoke, if we do this, if we walk this road, there's no halfway. Your mother will come for me. She will pray, curse, fight. If I stand, you stand. If I fall, you fall with me. Obinna nodded, his throat tight. I swear it. Then it begins, Nneka whispered. And just like that, the gods sealed their fate. By dusk, the village was already buzzing. Obinna has found another woman. She's worse than the last two. This one, her mouth is poison. It didn't take long before the words traveled, carried by the winds of gossip, landing straight into the ears of Mama Efima, far away, but always listening. She dropped her Bible, eyes red, lips trembling. They want to kill me. Again. Another Jezebel. Not on my watch. Her voice rose, loud enough for the heavens to hear. Obinna, my son, if you marry that woman, it will be over my dead body. She stood, trembling but fierce. "It is time to go see for myself." That night, the moon was blood red. Nneka slept peacefully for the first time in months, unaware that across the land, Mama Efima was already packing her bags, wrappers, Bible, anointing oil, and all. The final war was no longer a question of if. It was coming, and the night bus that would carry Mama Efima to Nneka's doorstep was already waiting. Long before Obinna became the man with money and haunted eyes, he was just a boy, small, fragile, with dreams too big for the compound he grew up in. His earliest memory wasn't of laughter or a father's pride. It was of Mama Efima's voice, sharp as a cutlass, declaring, "You are mine. Your blood runs through me. No woman will ever take you from me." Obinna never knew his father well. The man died when Obinna was 6. Some say fever, others whispered it was Efima's prayers that finished him. From that day, Mama Efima stopped being a mother. She became everything: father, mother, God, jailer. They called her Mima Holy Ghost. Not because she was holy, but because her voice could raise the dead or bury the living. Every morning, the village heard her, "Holy Ghost fire. Any woman plotting against my son's destiny, catch fire. Anyone planning to snatch my Obinna's glory, roast in the name of Jesus." Obinna grew up hearing two things. Love was dangerous. Women were traps. By the time he turned 18, Mama Efima controlled everything: his clothes, his food, even his dreams. University? No. You will stay here and grow the business. Women in the city will ruin you. Obinna obeyed. He always obeyed. But deep down, a small part of him, weak but stubborn, wanted to run. At 23, Obinna fell in love for the first time. Adanma. Soft-spoken, eyes like morning dew. The village knew her as the girl who never raised her voice. They met by the stream. She smiled. He forgot how to breathe. For the first time, Obinna felt free. He brought her home. Mama Efima smiled. A thin, sharp smile. "You think love is enough? Him. We shall see." For 3 months, Mama Efima pretended. Sweet words. Fake smiles. Then the real war began. "Adanma, is this how you sweep your father's house? Is this the watery soup you serve my son? You call this cooking?" She humiliated Adanma daily, during prayers, in front of neighbors, even at family gatherings. "Adanma is barren," Mama Efima whispered to the church women. "My son is wasting his seed." Adanma cried every night until one morning, she left. No goodbye. Just silence. Obinna broke that day, but he didn't show it. "Mama, why? What did she do?" "I saved you," Mama Efima snapped. She was a snake, waiting to strike. Obinna nodded, but a piece of him died. He worked harder, earned more, trying to bury the emptiness. But the house grew colder, and his heart grew heavier. Years passed. Money came, respect followed. But peace? Peace ran from Obinna like a frightened goat. Then came Ngozi, a city girl, educated, beautiful. She was everything Adanma wasn't: bold, fierce, unafraid. For a moment, Obinna dreamed again. This one, she won't break. He told himself. He married her in secret, court wedding, no church, no village noise. When Mama Efima found out, hell broke loose. "How dare you? You think a paper makes her your wife? Without my blessing? You are cursed." Ngozi stood her ground. "You don't scare me, Mama." Mama Efima smiled. "You'll soon learn." It took 3 months. 3 months of daily insults. 3 months of prayers screamed at 3 a.m. 3 months of anointing oil poured on Ngozi's clothes. Then it happened. Ngozi lost the baby. The miscarriage was quiet, painful. Obinna rushed her to the hospital, hands shaking. Mama Efima arrived with her church women, singing, "Every strange seed shall not grow. Every evil pregnancy must scatter." Ngozi heard it from the hospital bed. That night, she packed her bags. "I can fight men, Obinna, but I can't fight a mother who wants me dead." She left. Obinna stopped living that day. Work became his drug. Smiling became a chore. Mama Efima walked taller. She had won again. "Women are poison," she told him. I will find you a good one. A church girl. One who fears God. And me. Obinna smiled but said nothing. Inside, he died a little more. By the time Obinna met Nneka, he was a shadow of the boy who once dreamed by the stream. He no longer believed in love. He believed in survival. Yet, something in Nneka's eyes lit a match in him, a part of him he thought Mama Ifema had killed. Could he fight for this one? Could he finally stand? He didn't know. But for the first time, he wanted to find out. By the third market day, word had fully reached Mama Ifema. They say Obinna is chasing a new woman. This one is not like the others, Mama. Her mouth is sharp. She is not scared. Mama Ifema gathered her prayer warriors, not women of God, but women trained in the fine art of spiritual war disguised as worship. They met in her parlor, all dressed in white, faces hard. We must strike now, Mama Ifema declared, slamming her Bible on the table. If we allow this one, my son is finished. What is the plan, Mama? One whispered. First, we find her roots. Who is Nneka? What is her weakness? Then, we tear her down. They prayed until the windows shook. Oil flowed. Words sharp like knives filled the air. Any woman sent to destroy my son, Holy Ghost fire. The war had begun, only Nneka didn't know it yet. Nneka felt it before she heard it. The way women stopped talking when she passed, the sudden hissing from corners. Finally, Amarachi grabbed her arm. They are coming for you, Nneka. Mama Ifema's people. They've started. Let them come, Nneka smiled thinly. I've been waiting. No, Nneka, you don't understand. They are not fighting you in the open. This is spiritual. This is the kind that makes you wake up and forget your own name. Nneka laughed. Then they picked the wrong woman. I was born in fire, Amarachi. Let them bring theirs. That night, Obinna came. Not for business. Not for oil. Just came. Nneka saw it in his face, defeat. He looked 10 years older. Sit, she said softly. For a long time, Obinna said nothing. Then, I can't breathe, Nneka. Every time I try to live, she pulls me back. I'm tired. Nneka stayed silent, letting him speak. I don't even know who I am anymore. Am I Obinna, or just Ifema's son? Silence. Then Nneka reached out, her voice steady. You're the man I see. Strong, broken, but still standing. If you let me, I will fight with you. Obinna's eyes filled with tears. Why, Nneka? Why fight a battle that's not yours? She smiled. Because if I don't, who will? It happened faster than anyone expected. One dusty evening, as Nneka cleaned her compound, a bus screeched to a halt. Out stepped Mama Ifema, white lace, Bible in one hand, oil in the other. The air shifted. So, you're the one, Mama Ifema's voice cut through the air like a blade. The latest Jezebel. Nneka smiled slowly, tying her wrapper tighter. And you must be the famous witch in the choir robe. Gasps. Women gathered. Men watched from afar. The real war had arrived. Without waiting, Mama Ifema began. Obinna, pack your things. We are leaving. This one will not kill me like the others tried. Obinna froze. Nneka stepped forward. No one is going anywhere. Who are you to speak when elders are talking? Mama Ifema hissed. The woman your son chose, Nneka shot back. Mama Ifema laughed. Cold, hard. Choose. My son chooses nothing. I am the one who chooses. I carried him for 9 months. You? You're just passing breeze. Nneka stepped forward until they were face to face. Then get ready, Mama, because this breeze is about to become a hurricane. The clash between Nneka and Mama Ifema spread like wildfire. By the next morning, even the elders gathered in corners whispering. They say Nneka called Mama Ifema a witch. She said she's ready for war. That woman, her mouth has no break. But this is not just any mother, this is Ifema. Mama Agba shook her head, her voice full of warning. If this ends in peace, I will shave my head. But if it ends in blood, we will need to call the gods. The tension hung thick, choking everyone in the village. For the first time in his life, Obinna stood between the two women, his past and his future, and made a choice. Mama, I'm not leaving with you. Gasps. Mema Efima's face twisted, her voice rising like a wailing siren. What did you say? Obinna. I said pick your bag. We are going. Obinna's voice shook but held. I said, I'm staying. Mama Efima staggered, like someone slapped by invisible hands. So this is it. This girl has bewitched you. You stand there, before your own mother, and choose her. I'm not choosing Nneka. I'm choosing peace, Obinna said, his eyes wet. I'm tired, Mama. Tired of watching my life burn so you can feel powerful. Mama Efima screamed, tore at her wrapper, and fell to the ground wailing. The village watched. No one moved. No one dared. Mema Efima wiped her tears, voice turning cold. Fine. You choose her. Then let's see what you choose after this. She pulled out a tattered envelope, one Obinna had never seen. Your father's will. The land, the business, everything. If you choose this witch, you lose it all. Obinna blinked. You're lying. Am I? Read it. Hands trembling, Obinna opened the paper. The words blurred. Land, shops, inheritance, all listed under one condition. No property shall go to my son if he marries against his mother's wish. Silence. Mema Efima smiled triumphantly. You see? You marry her, you lose it all. Make your choice, Obinna. Before Obinna could speak, Nneka stepped forward. Good. Then burn the paper, Mama. Let him start from zero. If it's only money holding him here, let me go now. Obinna stared at her, speechless. I didn't choose Obinna for his land or his shops. I chose him because even broken, he's still a man. If you think poverty scares me, Mema, I was born in it. Mema Efima hissed. Big mouth. We'll see if love can buy rice. Obinna stood, tears streaming. I choose her, he said finally. Keep your land, keep your business. I choose Nneka. That evening, the village chief sent word. This matter must be settled. All of you, come to the palace. Tomorrow. The stage was set. Nneka, Obinna, Mema Efima, all summoned. As night fell, Nneka and Obinna sat under the moon. She won't stop, Obinna. You know that, right? Nneka whispered. I know. Then let's finish this. No more hiding. No more running. Obinna nodded. We go to the village. Together. Nneka's eyes gleamed. We take the night bus. In front of everyone. Let them see. We are not afraid. Obinna swallowed hard, but for the first time, he felt it. Freedom. All right. Night bus it is. In her room, Mema Efima knelt, eyes blazing. If the gods won't help me, I will help myself. She lit a candle, poured oil, and whispered into the night. By the time that bus reaches the village, one of them will not be alive. The wind howled. The final war had begun. By the next morning, Yumu Okoro village was alive with whispers. They are boarding the night bus together. Obinna, Nneka, and Mema Efima. In the same bus? Blood will flow. Who goes to war sitting side by side with the enemy? Children stopped playing. Market women forgot to haggle. Even the village chief sent his servant to watch the departure. Everyone knew, this bus ride wasn't a journey, it was a battlefield on wheels. The rickety night bus screeched into the station by dusk. It was one of those old green monsters, windows dusty, seats too close together, engine coughing like an old man. Passengers stared wide-eyed as Obinna arrived with Nneka. Nneka wore a simple anchor wrapper, her head held high. Obinna walked beside her, shoulders tense. Then came Mema Efima, dressed in full white lace, Bible clutched like a weapon, face hard enough to cut stone. 3 of them, in one bus, someone muttered. The driver, a man called Okoro, known for minding his business, spat. This night will be long Obinna paid for 3 seats together. Mema Efima refused. I won't sit beside her. Tufiakwa. Let me sit by the window. Obinna sighed. Nneka, calm, sat in the middle. Perfect, she whispered. Now no one runs. The bus rolled forward. The journey began. Outside, The villagers watched, some crossing themselves, others praying silently. By morning, one person go missing, someone whispered. For the first 30 minutes, silence. Then Mama Efima coughed, loud, dramatic. Driver, open this window. The smell of Jezebel is choking me. Passengers gasped. Nneka smiled, leaning back. Mama, hold your Bible tight, oh, because today, that tongue of yours will land you where your prayers can't save you. Are you threatening me? No, Mama. I'm telling you. Obinna sat frozen, sweat dripping. The driver chuckled. Calm down, oh. I have no spare coffin in this bus. Laughter. Nervous, but laughter. Midway, Mama Efima reached into her bag and brought out a small bottle, anointing oil mixed with something dark. What's that? Nneka asked sharply. Oil for protection, Mama Efima smirked. Let me just pour small here. Before anyone could react, she sprinkled the mixture directly on Nneka's lap. Screams. Mama, are you mad? Obinna shouted. Nneka stood slowly, wrapper soaked, eyes red. You just poured a curse, Mama. May whatever is in that bottle return to you multiplied. Passengers shifted, murmuring. Madam Driver, should we stop this bus? Someone asked. Nobody stops anything, Nneka growled. This bus will reach the village. Whether she survives is not my problem. Now, the whole bus became an audience. Why do you hate her so much, Mama? A stranger asked Mama Efima. Mama Efima hissed. Because she's here to bury me. Like the others. Did the others die, Mama? Silence. No. But they left. And this one won't stay either. Watch. Nneka chuckled. You're right, Mama. I won't stay. I will thrive. The passengers clapped. Even the driver shook his head. First time I see mother-in-law and wife fighting on my bus. This is crazy. Just as midnight struck, the bus swerved. Mama Efima screamed. Driver, stop. I'm choking. She grabbed her throat, eyes rolling. Obinna panicked. Mama. Nneka stayed still. She's acting. Don't touch her. Nneka, please. No, Obinna. This is the test. If you save her, she wins. Obinna hesitated. Passengers watched, some urging him to help, others whispering, N.A. trick. If he touches her, she go say N.A. charm. Finally, Mama Efima coughed, sat up, and glared. I see. You're ready to watch me die. No, Mama, Nneka smiled coldly. We're ready to watch you live, and face your own demons. The night grew heavier, the air inside the bus thick like soup. Passengers were no longer pretending to sleep. Mama Efima, this thing you're doing, it's not good, oh, one old man finally spoke. This is your son. Why curse his happiness? Mama Efima shot him a deadly glare. Mind your business, old man. You know nothing. This girl is from the pit of hell. Ah, you poor oil. You pretend to die. Now you insult us? Haba, Mama. Another woman hissed. This is why you don't live with your in-laws, oh. See Wa'ala. One day, N.A. one of us go die inside this bus. Obinna's face was buried in his hands. Nneka. She sat still, unmoved, her eyes glowing like dying coal. She was ready. Mama, she said quietly. Tonight, every curse you speak, the wind is carrying it back to you. May your mouth eat the fruits of your words. The bus shook, not from the road, but from the weight of that prayer. As the bus rolled deeper into the night, Nneka drifted into a memory she had buried long ago. She was 10. Her own mother, angry, bitter, a woman betrayed by love, had once looked Nneka in the eyes and said, You will never find peace. You're too much like me, too wild. No man will stay. No man should. That curse had followed Nneka ever since. 3 broken marriages. Endless pain. Now here she was, fighting for love against another bitter woman. Maybe it's in my blood to fight mothers, Nneka thought bitterly. But if I must, this will be the last one. She opened her eyes, staring at Mama Efima. It ends here, she whispered. Suddenly, the bus swerved violently. The driver cursed loudly. Something ran across the road. Screams. babies crying. For a moment, everyone thought it was over. Driver, what did you see? Obinna shouted. A white goat, with red eyes, standing in the middle of the road. Then it vanished. Silence. One old woman sobbed. That's no goat. That's a warning. Somebody on this bus carries death. All eyes turned to Mama Efima. She hissed. Fools. You fear shadow but don't fear this witch beside me. Nneka smiled grimly. Mama, even the road knows your hands are not clean. Finally, just before dawn, the bus rolled into the village square. Dust rose. Elders waited. Drummers stood silent. The chief himself was present, flanked by a priestess dressed in red and white, cowries hanging from her neck. Welcome, the chief said coldly. We have been waiting. Mama Efima grinned. Good. Let the judgment begin. The chief raised his staff. There will be no talk, no noise. The gods will decide. He turned to the priestess. Prepare them. The spiritual test begins at sunrise. The priestess stepped forward, eyes sharp, voice deep. Tomorrow, one of you will bleed. The gods will not be mocked. If this union is cursed, we will know. She pointed at Nneka. You carry fire. Then at Mama Efima. You carry death. Obinna, you are the rope tied between two storms. If you break, everything breaks. Obinna's knees buckled. What is the test? Nneka asked. The priestess smiled darkly. You will know when it is time. For now, prepare your hearts. Because by tomorrow, one heart will stop. At dawn, the whole village gathered at the sacred grove, a place feared by all. It was a silent arena where the gods listened, where no one lied and survived. The priestess, her face painted white, stood waiting as Nneka, Obinna, and Mama Efima arrived. The chief raised his staff. The gods will decide this morning if this union is of peace or of blood. Mama Efima smirked. Let's finish this. I'm ready. Nneka smiled back. Me too. I came with nothing to lose. Obinna? He looked like a man walking to his funeral. The priestess stepped forward, her voice slicing the morning air. The test is simple. Each of you will drink from the calabash of truth. If your heart is clean, the water will taste sweet. If not. She didn't finish. She didn't have to. Gasps filled the air. Everyone knew. Many had drunk from that calabash and died. Shall we begin? The priestess asked. Mama Efima stepped forward, proud. I serve the living God. Pour. The calabash was handed to Mama Efima. Thick, black liquid swirled inside. She raised it, eyes blazing, and drank deeply. Seconds passed. Then Mama Efima staggered, clutching her throat. What is this? The priestess's voice boomed. Your heart is not clean, Mama Efima. Your bitterness is poison. You carry death. Mama Efima fell to her knees, gasping. I did it all for my son, she wailed. No, the priestess spat. You did it for yourself. Obinna stepped forward, his hands trembling. If I die, let me die free, he whispered. He drank. The grove went silent. Suddenly, Obinna gasped. But then, a soft smile spread across his face. Sweet, it tastes sweet, he whispered. The priestess smiled. You carry only the desire for peace. Nneka wept silently. Obinna was free. Now it was Nneka's turn. She took the calabash but froze. Deep inside, a voice, her mother's voice, laughed. No man will ever keep you. You carry my curse, Nneka. Hands shaking, she lifted the calabash. Drink, daughter of fire, the priestess commanded. She drank. For a moment, nothing. Then Nneka staggered. Her body shivered as visions flashed. Her mother cursing her, her past husbands walking away, Obinna fading. No. Nneka screamed. The priestess rushed forward, placing a hand on Nneka's chest. You carry fire, but the curse is not yours. It is your mother's shadow. Nneka collapsed, sobbing. Break it, please. I want peace. The priestess turned to the chief. The curse must be broken now, or she will bury another husband. What must be done? The chief asked. Blood must speak. Either she sheds it, or it consumes her. Obinna stood. Take mine. Gasps. No. Nneka cried. Yes, Obinna said. If I bleed for you, no curse will hold you again. The priestess nodded. So be it. With shaking hands, Obinna sliced his palm, his blood dripping into the earth. I free you, Nneka, from your mother's sins. From mine. From hers, he pointed at Mama Efima. The ground shook. The sky darkened. Then silence. The priestess smiled. It is done. As the oath swallowed Obinna's blood, a strange silence fell over the grove. The priestess turned sharply to Mama Efima, eyes burning. The gods say, there is still one truth you hide. Speak now, or your tongue will rot in your mouth. Mama Efima trembled, lips quivering. Obinna turned, face pale. Mama, what is she talking about? The priestess's voice became thunder. Tell him. Mama Efima collapsed, sobbing. You're not my blood. What? Obinna's voice cracked. Your father, he took another wife. A young girl, Nwakego. She gave birth to you. I couldn't carry a child. She died after birthing you. Your father begged me to raise you as mine. I did, but I hated you. Every time I saw you, I saw her. The girl who had what I couldn't. The grove gasped. The chief dropped his staff. So, all this war, all this pain, because of jealousy. Obinna whispered, tears running down his face. Mama Efima sobbed. I just wanted you to need me. You destroyed me, Obinna whispered. You destroyed every chance I had, because of your pride. Nneka stood, her voice calm but cold. The gods have judged. She is not your mother, Obinna. She is your captor. The priestess nodded. The blood tie you feared is broken. She owns no part of your destiny. Obinna turned away from Mama Efima. I release you. From my heart, from my life. Go and die with your secrets. Mama Efima wailed. Obinna, please. I have nothing left. That's what you created, Mama. A world where no one loves you. The chief stood. Let it be known, by the power of the gods, Mama Efima is banished. She must leave this land before the sun sets. Gasps filled the air. Some women wept. Others nodded in silent agreement. The priestess smiled at Nneka. As for you, daughter of fire, you are free. No curse binds you now. Nneka wept openly, falling into Obinna's arms. You fought for me, she whispered. No, Obinna smiled weakly. We fought for each other. As the sun reached its peak, Mama Efima was escorted out. Alone. No family. No crowd. No glory. She turned once, eyes meeting Obinna's. I loved you, in my own way. Obinna said nothing. Mama Efima vanished down the dusty road, swallowed by the very loneliness she birthed. That evening, the village gathered. The chief raised his hands. Today, we bless what no curse could destroy. Obinna, Nneka, may your home know peace. The crowd cheered. Drums beat. Women danced. But the priestess stepped forward, one final time. Daughter of fire, son of blood, you have won. But remember, bitterness is a seed. If you ever water it, this story will repeat. Nneka nodded. I will not forget. Obinna squeezed her hand. Never again. That night, under the stars, Nneka lay beside Obinna, staring at the sky. Are you afraid? She asked. No, he whispered. For the first time, I feel free. Nneka smiled, tears sliding down her cheeks. Then let's build a home, Obinna. A home where no curse sleeps. A home where laughter lives. He kissed her forehead. Let's begin. And with that, the story of fire, blood, and bitter mothers ended, not in war, but in peace. While the women tested Nneka, the men of the village were not left out. They gathered at OG Square, under the ancient Iroko tree. Obinna has become a woman, sneered Pan Wafo, the self-proclaimed mouthpiece of the men. His wife leads him like goat on a rope. The men nodded. We must remind him what it means to be a man, someone whispered. The plan was simple. Invite Obina for the secret men's palm wine gathering where only real men spoke, and where every story ended with my wife cannot talk when I talk. Obina arrived. They clapped him on the back, poured him the strongest wine. Brother, is it true your woman sits beside you when elders talk? Obina smiled. She does. Because she's not a child. She is my partner. Gasps. Someone choked on their wine. Huh. Obina, this is not Lagos. Hey, a woman knows her place. Obina stood slowly, staring at all of them. If that's your way, keep it. But in my house, respect is earned, not forced. My wife is fire, but together, we make light. He left them silent, swallowing their pride along with their wine. Just when Nneka thought the worst was over, Chibuzo returned. Yes, that Chibuzo, her second husband. Rich, arrogant, and still bitter. He strolled into the village with his new car and loud laughter, announcing his return. I hear Nneka is now married. To Efima's boy? Ha! The gods have humor. That evening, Chibuzo appeared at Nneka's compound, uninvited. Ah, Nneka, you still fine like yesterday. So this is the man you chose after me. He laughed. Tell me, do you miss me? Obina stepped out. She doesn't. But I can arrange for you to miss your teeth if you don't leave. Chibuzo laughed. Easy, friend. I just came to see if she's still wild. But now I see, she's tamed. You see nothing, Nneka fired back. Leave, before I finish what I didn't the first time. Chibuzo left, but the damage was done. Whispers began. Maybe she still loves Chibuzo. Maybe Obina is just temporary. The final test came during the village's Festival of Peace, an event created, ironically, to keep women in their place. Custom demanded that wives must kneel deeply before their husbands in public. Failure meant shame, exile from the women's gathering, and worse, endless gossip. Nneka stared at the line of women kneeling. Amarachi hissed, Nneka, this is their trap. Kneel, they say you're weak. Refuse, they say you're proud. The chief's wife, smug, called out, let us see if the lioness can bend her neck. Nneka stood tall, heart pounding. Then slowly, she walked to Obina and knelt. Gasps. But she smiled. I kneel, not because I am less, but because the man before me has earned it. Obina lifted her instantly, voice loud. And I rise because the woman before me is my crown, not my slave. The crowd roared. Some clapped. Some hissed. But the message was clear. The game was changing. 2 days later, the final bomb dropped. Nneka is pregnant, a voice whispered. Or is it Chibuzo's? The village shook. Faces turned. Eyes pierced. Even Obina heard. He found Nneka sitting by the river, silent. Is it true? He asked, voice shaking. You had to ask. Nneka's eyes burned. You, who bled for me. You, think another man touched me. Obina fell to his knees. Forgive me. This village, it poisons the mind. They wept. That night, Nneka stood in the village square. Let me say this once. Any man or woman who speaks my name and lies, your tongue will rot. Yes, I am with child. And it is his alone. Obina placed his hand on her belly. The next person who doubts will face me. Silence. One by one, the village broke. Mima Chinu was the first. We tried. We failed. This woman is not our mate. Even Pan Wafer nodded. Let them be. Not every fire burns. Some warm the house. The chief himself came days later, bringing kola nut. Forgive us. The village was wrong. Bless us with your child. Nneka smiled. We will, but never forget. Peace is not given, it is taken. And we took ours. By dawn, the palace square was packed. The chief sat with the elders. The priestess was there, her eyes unreadable. Obina stood torn between his past and his present. Nneka, heavy with child, stood beside him like a queen going to war. Amara? She smiled lazily, confident. I want my share, she said simply. Land, house, everything. If not, we scatter this place. The priestess raised her hand. This is no land matter. This is blood and spirit. We must dig deeper. She ordered the calabash of blood be brought forward. Let the ancestors speak. A small cut was made on Obina's palm. His blood dripped into the calabash. Amara stepped forward, grinning. Cut me. You will see. The knife sliced her palm. Blood mixed. The priestess stared. The blood foamed. Gasps. What does it mean? Obina whispered. The priestess spat. She is blood, but not pure. There is death sitting on her shoulder. Amara laughed. Of course. Mama Ifema cursed us both. If I don't take, we both die. The priestess chanted and called forth the shadow of Nwakego, Obina's real mother. Her voice echoed, My children, I cursed you the day I died. Bitterness filled me. But my daughter, Amara, is not clean. She was fathered by another, not your father. Shock. Amara screamed. It's a lie. The priestess roared. Your blood is mixed. You are no heir. You are the weapon Mama Ifema raised to finish what she started. The village exploded. Some ran. Some fell to their knees. Obina broke down. Then what do we do? The priestess turned to Nneka. Only you can finish this. But you must fight, now. Pregnant or not. Nneka's face hardened. Let's end it. A circle was drawn. Nneka and Amara stepped in. The drums began. Fight with words. Fight with truth. The gods are listening. Amara spat venom. You are nothing. You stole what was mine. Nneka smiled coldly. I took nothing. You came hunting where you don't belong. The air cracked. Thunder rolled. Amara screamed, launching herself at Nneka. Nneka stood firm. The earth fights for me. You are already defeated. Suddenly, Amara collapsed, foaming at the mouth. The curse backfired. The priestess declared, It is done. She came for blood, but the gods rejected her. Obina held Nneka as the village erupted in chants. This woman, she saved us again. Amara was dragged away, her mouth silent forever. The priestess whispered to Nneka, This is your final test. But remember, peace is never free. Nneka nodded. We will build it. Stone by stone. Obina kissed her belly. Let this child be born into peace. The drums rose. The sun set. The saga, for now, ended. 9 moons had passed since the final battle. Nneka's body was heavy, swollen with life. The village held its breath. Would the child survive? Would the curse return? Or had Nneka truly conquered the past? The priestess visited once more. Her words sharp, but laced with something new, hope. Tonight, the gods will test you one last time. This bite will either bring peace or wake everything buried. Nneka clutched her belly. Let them come. I am ready. The moon rose blood red. Crickets sang. Then came the scream. Nneka's water broke. The entire compound shook. Obina ran to the shrine, tears streaming. Please, save her. Save them both. The priestess smiled sadly. Go. Watch your woman. She fights now, not for herself, but for all of you. It was no ordinary labor. The sky darkened. Thunder roared. Nneka screamed, fighting to bring forth the child. Women gathered, weeping, praying. Suddenly, silence. Then, the child's cry. A boy. His first scream louder than the drums. The priestess arrived. Show me the child. She stared deep into his eyes and nodded. He carries no curse, but there's something else. What? Nneka gasped. He is a fire. This boy will one day choose peace or war. Raise him well, or you will bury us all. As the village celebrated, another shadow moved, Uche, the chief's first son. He had watched Nneka from the start, desired her, envied Obina. Now, he approached her compound. Your son is powerful, Nneka, Uche whispered. But power must be controlled. Give me the boy. Let me raise him. I will make him king. Nneka spat. Over my dead body. Uche smiled. We'll see. The next market day, Uche cornered Obina outside the palm wine tapper's hut. His voice was soft, like a snake sliding through grass. Brother, you trust your wife too much. Are you sure that boy is yours? Obina's face tightened. Don't start. Uche smirked. I hear whispers. They say, Nneka's fire burns everywhere. Even old lovers return to her. And now, this child, why does he look nothing like you? Obina's fist clenched, but Uche patted his back. I say this because I care. You're my friend. My blood. If she dishes you, you know what that means. Obina walked away, but the poison was planted. That night, Nneka dreamed. She stood in the center of the market, her baby ripped from her arms. Uche stood laughing, holding her son, declaring, he is mine now. And with him, the village is mine. She woke sweating. The priestess appeared by dawn. They have started. Protect your son. Not with words, but with your soul. Nneka wept. I fought too hard to lose now. Then prepare, Nneka, because the next war is not with women. It is with kings. The very next week, Uche returned, this time not as a brother, but as a threat. He came with the village elders. This boy, Uche declared, must be blessed by the chief's lineage. As first son, I demand it. Obina froze. No, my son will not bow to you. Then the gods will decide if he lives, Uche sneered. Gasps. The elders murmured. Nneka stepped forward, voice like thunder. Touch my son, and even the gods will weep for you. Uche smiled slowly. We'll see. That night, the wind howled. The air smelled of blood. The child cried, endlessly, painfully. The priestess arrived running, eyes wide. They sent something, a spirit. If we don't stop it, your son dies before morning. A fire was lit. Incantations filled the air. Nneka held her son close, rocking him, singing through tears. You cannot have him, you cannot. The air cracked. A shadow screamed and vanished. The baby slept, peaceful. The next morning, lines were drawn. Nneka is proud. She challenges men. Obina is weak. Uche should lead. The chief, old and tired, called a meeting. 1 week from now, the boy will be brought to the shrine. The gods will choose his path, Obina or Uche. Nneka collapsed, sobbing. Why must every joy come with a war? Obina held her. We fight, together, to the end. That night, Uche came one last time, alone. Nneka, I offered peace. You chose war. So hear me, if that child lives, I will not stop until I have him, either by law or by death. Nneka's eyes burned. Try me, and you'll meet every ancestor waiting to bury you. Uche smiled and vanished into the night. The war was set. The drums, silent, waiting. The day of the child's trial arrived like a curse wrapped in sunlight. Birds refused to sing. Even the trees seemed to bow. The shrine square filled, elders, women, the priestess, Uche in his red chieftain wrapper, smiling like a man who had already won. Nneka clutched her son, heart pounding. Obina stood behind her, silent but ready. The chief's trembling voice cut through the air. Today, the gods will decide who owns this boy, blood or womb, strength or heart. If the child's spirit leans toward Uche, he leaves with him. If not, Nneka keeps him. So it is said. So it is done, the crowd echoed. Before stepping forward, Nneka grabbed Obina's arm. Tears filled her eyes. I must tell you, Obina, I lied. About what? This boy, he is more than ours. The priestess warned me months ago. He carries the gift. The gods chose him at conception. That's why they all want him. Obina staggered. Why? Why didn't you tell me? Because once the gods name a child their own, they rarely let him grow free. I was afraid. I wanted him to be ours, just ours. Obina wiped his face. Then we fight. If the gods want him, let them fight for him. The priestess raised the calabash high. Let the child's spirit choose. Boy, crawl to your destiny. The child, no more than 9 months, was placed at the center. On one side, Nneka and Obina. On the other, Uche, smiling, holding a golden bangle. Come, my prince. Come to power. Gasps filled the air. Move, the priestess whispered. The baby looked at his mother, then at Uche. Silence. No wind. No sound. Nneka bit her lip till blood came. Obinna whispered, "Please, choose us." Suddenly, the child crawled toward Uche. Gasps. Uche's laughter filled the air. "I told you, he is mine." Then, just inches from Uche, the child stopped. Looked back. He turned. Crawled fast into Nneka's arms. The ground shook. The priestess laughed. The boy chose, heart over blood. The gods have spoken. But Uche wasn't done. He screamed, snatched a dagger from his wrapper, and charged. "If I can't have him, no one will." Nneka screamed. Obinna leapt forward. The priestess raised her staff. Enough. A lightning bolt tore the sky. Uche fell, lifeless, face twisted in rage. The silence after Uche's fall was thick. Even the wind seemed to stop. His lifeless body lay sprawled, face frozen in rage, eyes open wide as if still hunting for power. The priestess stood over him, voice steady. "Let no one touch him. His soul belongs to the gods now, and they are not done punishing him." The elders trembled. Some crossed themselves. Others turned away. The chief, Uche's own father, broke down in tears. "My son, my pride, what have you done?" The priestess pointed a crooked finger at him. "You fed his pride. You let him believe the throne was his, even when the gods showed you another path." The chief knelt. "I confess. I feared him. I feared losing my name. But now, I have lost my blood." For the first time, Nneka stood before the entire village, no longer the cursed woman, no longer just the wife, but the mother of destiny. "I begged all of you, leave us in peace. But every step, someone came for us. Look now, is this the peace you wanted?" The women wept. Even Mama Chinu, once Nneka's worst enemy, fell to her knees. "Forgive us. We did not know. You are not just a woman. You are the storm." Nneka wiped her face. "I don't want your tears. I want your silence. From this day, my son walks free. No curse, no gossip, no claim. If I hear one more word, you will see the fire you fear." As custom demanded, the child's name could now be spoken, not before the village, but before the gods. The priestess smiled. "Name him Nneka, and let the world know who walks among them." Nneka lifted the boy high. Her voice rang, "His name is Chijindu, because only God holds my life." The crowd roared, "Chijindu! Chijindu!" The drums rolled. The earth felt lighter. Before the crowd could scatter, the priestess spoke one last time, her voice low, eyes distant. "You have won, Nneka. But the gods, they are not done. This child is both blessing and burden. Raise him right, or one day, he will return, not as your son, but as your judge." Nneka's heart trembled. "What must I do?" she asked. The priestess smiled sadly. "Teach him love. Teach him pain. Teach him that power is not given, it is earned. If you fail, the fire you carry will burn you all." The village buried Uche far from the lands of men, where cursed souls went. The chief abdicated his throne. "Obinna, rule if you wish. But I am done." Obinna shook his head. "I want no throne, just peace." And so, they returned home. Nneka, Obinna, and Chijindu. For the first time, the sun rose over their compound, warm, full, peaceful. But far away, the wind whispered, "It is not over, not yet." The seasons passed, but the story of Chijindu, the boy born of fire and blood, became legend. He was not like other children. By 10, his eyes saw what men feared. By 12, his strength matched warriors twice his size. By 13, he had stopped calling Obinna Papa. Nneka watched, heartbreaking slowly. Every smile from her son carried shadows. "Mama, why do they bow when I pass?" he asked once. Nneka forced a smile. "Because you are chosen." Chijindu laughed, cold. "Then why do they fear me?" Nneka had no answer. One dusty evening, Amarachi came running. "Nneka, have you heard? The young ones, they call him king already. Some say, Chijindu should rule. Not Obinna, not the chief's weak son." Nneka's heart pounded. That was not the plan. Plans change, my sister. This boy is not yours anymore. The village, the gods, they see only him." Obina sat in silence, staring at his hands. What did we create, Nneka? Did we birth peace, or another Uche? Nneka wept. The young chief, weak, unsure, sent for them. "Your son, he grows wild. He shames my name. He must kneel, or I will exile you all." Nneka laughed bitterly. "Exile us? You forget, my son is the god's child. Then bring him. Let us see if he bows." The challenge was set. That night, the priestess, old, frail, but not dead, returned one last time. "I warned you, Nneka. Raise him well, or he will judge you." Nneka sobbed. "I tried. I swear." The priestess touched her shoulder. "Tomorrow, everything you love will burn or rise. Choose wisely." The village square groaned under the weight of bodies. All eyes were on Chijindu, tall, broad-shouldered, face carved like a god's own hand. The young chief sat trembling. "Kneel, Chijindu, honor your king." Chijindu's voice rang out. "You are no king. You are a child holding a man's stool." Gasps echoed. The chief pounded his staff. Guards, seizing. Men moved. Slowly, fearfully. Nneka stood. "Don't. If you love your blood, don't touch my son." "He must bow," the chief shouted. Chijindu's laugh was deep, cold. "Let me show you who bows today." Before anyone could breathe, the sky darkened. Thunder cracked. Chijindu raised his hand. A joke, a trick, the villagers thought. Then the chief's staff burst into flames. Women screamed. Men fell to their knees. What are you?" the chief gasped. "Your end," Chijindu whispered. The priestess staggered forward. "Stop, child, stop. You fulfill the dark path if you bind him now." Nneka ran, tears streaming. "Chijindu, you swore you'd be more than him, more than the fire." For a moment, Chijindu froze. "Mama, they never wanted me. Let me finish this." "No, my son. They feared you because they saw your father's chains, not your heart. Show them. You break chains, not bodies." Silence fell. Chijindu stared at the chief, trembling, weeping. Then slowly, he dropped his hand. The fire died. "Let him live. Let him remember every day that I spared him." The priestess smiled. "You chose well, fire tamed by blood." The crowd wept. That night, Obina embraced his son. "You are stronger than me, than any of us. But remember, the strongest man knows when to burn and when to build." Chijindu nodded. Nneka watched the moon rise, tears of relief falling. "We broke the curse, Obina, we broke it." "No," Obina whispered. "He did." The priestess spoke one last time. "Chijindu, you will not rule this village. You will rule hearts and lands far beyond. But, when the fire calls again, remember, it is not your enemy. It is your test." She turned to Nneka. "And you, sleep now. You have fought enough." Nneka smiled weakly. "Let peace reign. Let my son live free." The sun rose. The village bowed, not in fear, but respect. Chijindu walked ahead. No crown, no throne, but every step he took, the earth seemed to bow. Nneka stood, Obina at her side. "We won, my love. We won." But somewhere, in the wind, a whisper. "Peace is never forever, but for now, it is yours." Seasons passed. The winds grew gentle. Chijindu became a man, taller, stronger, wiser. The village once torn by fire and blood learned peace. Crops grew. Children laughed. The people, once afraid of him, now called his name with pride. Chijindu, the breaker of curses. But in Nneka's heart, a quiet ache grew. She watched her son every morning, wondering if the gods were truly done testing them. One night, Nneka dreamed. She saw a vast land, mountains, rivers, cities she did not know. And at the center, Chijindu, sitting on a throne made of light. But there was fire all around him. Not burning, waiting. Her mother's voice echoed, soft, regretful. "Daughter, the fire never dies. It sleeps. One day, it will wake. Nneka woke in tears. Obinna, we must prepare him. The gods, they are not done. Word came from the west, a new kingdom was rising. The king was dying, and his last words were clear. Find me the boy born of fire. Only he can save this land. Chijindu heard the call. Mama, father, it's time. I feel it. Nneka wept. Must you go? Must you always chase what the gods demand? Chijindu knelt before her. I am my mother's son, but I was never meant to die here. You knew this. Obinna placed a shaking hand on his son's head. Go, but remember, your name is not fire. Your name is peace. Chijindu smiled. No, Papa. My name is both. Before he left, Nneka called him to the sacred grove, the same place where the blood curse ended. Kneel, my son. He did. I give you my last blessing, and my last secret. I am tired. When you return, I will not be here. But you must not carry grief. Carry fire. Carry love. Chijindu held her. Mama, don't leave. I must. I have fought enough. Now, it's your war. That night, Nneka lay down beside Obinna. The stars were bright. The air soft. Sleep, my love, Obinna whispered. You gave us everything. Nneka smiled weakly. Tell him I was proud. With a final breath, she was gone, peaceful, free. At dawn, Chijindu stood on the hill where his mother was buried. I swear, I will not fail you. With nothing but his staff and his name, he walked away, toward the unknown, toward destiny. The village watched, knowing they would never see his like again. The priestess, now old and frail, whispered into the wind. A mother's fire birthed him. A father's love shaped him. But the world will decide what Chijindu becomes. Remember this tale, for it is not just his story, it is ours. The story of fire, blood, and the power of choosing peace. The drums rolled one last time. And then, silence. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, kindly hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating tales. I'd love to hear from you. What stood out to you, or what lesson did you take away from this story? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, see you in the next story. With love, ZUBE.